Hey guys, I've got to show you the new API that I created for normal mapping. I'm going to call it bump mapping, just as a different name to distinguish it from the default CopperCube normal mapping. We're going to compare the two. For this outdoor terrain, it has a single texture and a single normal map I've applied as the second texture, as you would. So we're going to change that to normal map. One thing you notice about CopperCube normal mapping, directional light does not brighten the, has no effect on the texture image at all. Obviously a very bad idea for outdoor terrains. It's not too bad for indoor use, but yeah, it's terrible for outdoor use. It's not usable actually, barely. If you use a big point light or spotlight, it will work to brighten the light, but it will not work as a directional light because it's basically a point light's multi-directional light really. So if you put it in the middle, everywhere outside of the center facing towards the center from the outside will be dark in all directions. So that's not how a directional light's supposed to be. So if you want like a sunlight effect, that's not going to work at all. But yes, but my new API will work correctly with directional light. So I'll just show you this now. We'll compare the two images between CopperCube normal mapping and my bump mapping, which is also it's still normal mapping anyway, just different name. Okay, so let's run that. This is standard CopperCube. Notice how the normals are all screwed up. You can fix this if you go into Blender and smooth the normals, because they're not smooth properly. CopperCube editor does not smooth the normals properly. It stuffs it up actually. So you wouldn't really want to use it to do that. But notice how the detail, yeah, it's pretty good. You've got detail in the more detail in the textures, of course, which is good compared to normal. Okay, well that's what it looks like normally. So it's just pretty flat. You got just basic colors, no actual shading of from lighting at all. It's very, very plain. You can back stuff into the texture from the normal map. That will work, but it's never going to pick up the direction of the light itself and give you shading, to give it more of a three-dimensional look. It's not going to do that. And if you did, it'll be fixed in place so that when the directional light moves, it will not change the look of it at all. So having a more dynamic effect with the material can be good. I've changed it from normal map back to solid, and when you do that, it always removes the normal map, so I'll just put that back in. Okay, this is using my new binary, compiled binary. So there's your standard texture. I haven't activated it yet. When I activated it, see that? Adds all that nice extra detail in. Now that's, my API has a minimum brightness level, so the color range will be between 0 and 255, but if you have the minimum brightness at 0, you'll get a lot more really dark colors and a lot more really bright colors. But if you upgrade the minimum brightness to say like 100 out of 255, see that? Yeah, the maximum brightness will be reduced, which actually in some ways it sort of looks better because it might have been too much, but the actual maximum darkness will increase, won't be so dark. You're still getting all the detail. This is just one big texture. That's why the resolution is a bit low here, because it's one big terrain and one texture. But it's just for demo purposes. You can see that there's a lot of extra detail applied through normal mapping, and this is just with the fixed function pipeline. That's with 0, the minimum brightness of 0 or black, total black, and that's when you increase it a little bit. And it's got a little bit of shine there too anyway. That's interesting. And that shine is from the directional light. So yeah, so if you face the other direction, you're facing away from the sun, yeah, you won't see it. So that's correct. When you do face the sun, it does show up. That's pretty cool. That's standard CopperCube will do that. Anyway, so yeah, the normal mapping, my API one will work just fine. That's maximum 0 minimum brightness and 100 minimum brightness. Somewhere in the middle I think is probably good. So that works. The more brighter brights and darker darks if you have 0 minimum brightness. But yeah, it sort of looks more like an alien planet, doesn't it, I suppose? A bit too dark. I think somewhere about 50 is probably better in between the two. Anyway, but either way, that works pretty good. You can see there's a lot more detail there with, and this doesn't stuff up the normals, and it is affected by the directional light as well, so that's pretty sweet. This is for 3D meshes, and actually also for animated meshes it works as well. It does not work for the default CopperCube terrain at the moment. This is the API, just simple set bump map, I've called it. It is a normal map really, but I've just separated the name from, distinguished from CopperCube normal mapping. You just send through the name of the node of the object you want to update. If you want to update all the textures in one hit, just put a number, any number higher than the highest last texture. So if it's got 7 textures, just put 8 or more, and it'll automatically just update all of them. If you put any number below the maximum number of textures, it'll only update, or I should say materials, it'll update just that one material index, you know, from 0 to whatever. This is the direction of the directional light. You can also use this for a spotlight purpose as well if you want. Not sure how useful that would be, because it's only going to brighten it'll darken the images away from the camera, but you won't even see it because it's away from the camera. So you'll only see the bright side anyway, so it'll have a limited effect with a spotlight, but worth a try. You might be good. And this is the minimum brightness of 0 to start with, and the other option was a minimum brightness of 100, so that's the only difference. So you just put 100 there, and that will modify it slightly. Probably about 50 is good actually. I like 50, somewhere in the middle. As you can see, new material bump map. Yeah, it just fixed function pipeline still works. It's still usable. It's not redundant just yet. So there's the dot product. That's what it's using, a dot product between the normal map and the incoming color. It's actually a color, not a vector. Yeah, which updates the texture. So I add a copy of the original texture in index 0 and put a copy of it into number 2, and I use that after I've calculated this one, modified with that one, then bring that back into here and update it with the diffuse lighting, and that works fine. Now, I couldn't just add in the diffuse. I've used a T factor or a constant you can also use, but normally you would just put in here diffuse lighting multiplied by a dot product of the diffuse lighting and the normal map. That's normally how it's set up, but this did not work at all because the directional light direction had to be reversed. It was not working. It was always too dark, and I worked out eventually after a bit of a hassle that yeah, it's the wrong direction, so I had to manually reverse the direction. So I'm converting it from -1 to 1 to 0 to 255 with this little formula thing here, and then I'm adding a minimum light as well, and then I'm clamping it back down to a maximum minimum value there, so it doesn't go outside of the range. Even though it does go outside of the range, it generally will work, but it may go too high. I'm not sure about that, but I've just clamped it. And that works fine. So instead I'm feeding in the direction of the directional light into the material. Not really supposed to do this, but I'm using the parameters 1, 2 and 3. I just added a new parameter 3 and filled that up with the RGB, and there it is there, texture factor, which updates the dot product there. Yeah, so yeah, that works good, and it works for animated models as well. For example, this here soldier, I've updated him with some basic normal maps. Okay, I just created this normal map from Awesome Bump. It's not particularly great. It's better to have the original normal maps. It's going to look a hell of a lot better, but this is just to show that it actually does work. And the normal maps are not particularly high resolution. That's only 512, that's 1K. So you won't see high resolution, but it's just a sake of a demo, you'll see this guy does get updated with bump mapping or normal mapping. So let me just run that Okay, so now we updated that. You'll see now I've activated it. You'll see a bit more detail coming through on top of the textures, and also it is adjusted for the lighting, directional lighting. So there it is there. A bit more detail coming through. You know, if you want it to do that, yeah, it does work. Obviously, it's going to look better if you have the original normal maps with higher resolution, of course. Now that's with 0 minimum brightness. If I go up to 100, it's not quite as dark. See that? 0. Change it to 100 there. So probably somewhere in the middle. Typically, yeah, it seems to work better. But yeah, that does actually work. If you want to bake normal map details into the texture dynamically and adjust it for the directional light or any other light, yeah, it does work actually, which is pretty cool. You might get slightly better effect if you just bake the normal map details into the main texture. I tend to do that a lot actually, because it actually comes out better. If you want to add in the normal map as well to the normal map baked original texture, as in both methods, yeah, that's even better. You come out with even better look, I've found typically. So, but yeah, so it does work. Yeah, if you've got the original mesh and the original normal map that the mesh was made with, it's going to look a lot more detail, heaps more detail from the normal map than just creating your own normal maps from scratch with something like Awesome Bump or whatever it is, because there was no normal maps to this player, so I just created them. Pretty rough ones, by the way, but anyway, it does work, as you can see. Yeah, so I hope you like that. Let me know what you think. Cheers.